Hello everyone and welcome to the Fiverr course. In this short course, we're going to take a look at the platform, how we can best utilize it, and what we can do to succeed as a freelancer on these types of platforms. So without further ado, let's get started. So that concludes the Fiverr course. I hope you guys enjoyed these freelancing tips and how to make an account on Fiverr and start your Fiverr journey. Fiverr is always adding new tools and new ways to improve and promote your profiles. So always check in for the updates and the emails and stay on top of everything, and good luck freelancing. So be sure to check in for updates and your notifications and stay on top of the game. And I wish you all a good luck on your freelancing journey.
Congratulations on finishing this Fiverr course. We have covered the foundational aspects of freelancing, and I trust that you are now equipped with the confidence and skills to navigate the platform with ease. Remember, you can always post in the discussion section of this course if you have any questions, and we will try to answer all of them. If you don't have any questions, but you want to give us your opinion on the course, you can also leave a review. It helps us improve this course and make it even better for other students. Thank you for choosing our course, and I look forward to seeing you excel in your freelancing endeavors.
Now we're going to talk about how we can effectively communicate with our clients, and that all begins with even getting that first client. Now on Fiverr, you have to depend on your SEO skills, your title, your thumbnail in order for the clients to click on your gig, and then you can get that client. Other ways that we explored was going on social media, promoting your gigs through ads, sharing your badge and all that stuff. But what if you just simply cannot wait that long and you want to find other ways of gaining traction and finding clients? The stuff that I'm going to share with you are not 100% tailored towards Fiverr, but just towards freelancing in general. So the first thing that you need to do when you see a company, when you see their CEO, just like posting on LinkedIn, or you just come across their website, you're walking by their posters, is making a cold call. In this case, it would be a cold email. You basically see that there is a lack of something in their business, and you're going to convince them that, hey, I can fill that up for you because I have experience X, Y, and Z. So with cold calls, or better yet, cold emails, you can just straight to the point introduce what you're going to do for that client. So unlike a regular email, you're not really spending a lot of time on the formalities, on introducing yourself fully, telling them about your background that much. You're just telling them that, hey, I'm blank, and I can do service C for you for this price because I saw that you have a lack for that service. So let's take a look at a few examples on the internet. So this right here, based in blank, they offer writing services. So third sentence, I already know why this person is contacting me, and they're sharing their price, the limitations, and I'd like to talk to you more about it. And the most important thing, a call to action. So that's how you want to format your emails as well. There are tons of other stuff. You can see here, they want to see if there's a need for any writers or content. It's a lot better when you specify your rate and your service. So these are the stuff that you're going to have for a cold email. It doesn't matter where you share this email. It could be a message on LinkedIn, on Instagram. This is a great way that freelancers use to get clients. Now, while you are giving all this information, and try to be very specific, don't linger anything in the email, it would be really helpful to have some links for their reference, some PDFs, some samples. If you're dealing with logos, attach some of those logos, your best logos, to that email so immediately they can see that I can get something like that for $50. So cold emails is one way. Performance-based approach is another popular way that freelancers, especially the beginner ones, use to gain the trust of the clients and basically convince them to pay them for, or at least give them a shot for the service that they're providing. So what this means is that you're going to go up to that person with a cold email or cold message, and you would be like, I'm willing to do this service for you, and only once you're satisfied will I be asking for compensation. they can see how committed you are and how much you believe in your own capabilities and services. So if you saw that no one is answering, try switching to this method. And I know not getting paid for your work can be a concern of yours right now, but you are going to be having them as work experience, and you can just use what you made for them in your Fiverr profile, and you basically have a real client to show the future ones. Now, what if you don't want to do this approach? No one answers you, but you still need to get some sort of clientele in your profile. Another approach that a lot of beginners take is the fake brief method. With this, there are a lot of generators on the internet, but essentially they create you a client's profile and you get to not only practice your skills, but to get a fully developed project out of these fake briefs and then put that on your profile. Of course, you're not going to mention to the potential clients that they're fake, but because of how much detail goes into these briefs, it can easily convince the future clients that you are experienced, even though you didn't really have real clients. So if you just go to the internet, design brief generator, you can choose the field. So let's say you want to be an illustrator on Fiverr, generate brief, and there you go. So you have this fake client named Kai. They want a watercolor illustration of Robin Williams, want it to look realistic. And then you can do this watercolor, write down the name Kai as your client, and just fill in your portfolio like that. There's also stuff for web design. Let's try that. So the new California fish market, someone that can design a professional website, a new login page for our employee web portal. So gather a bunch of these, design their stuff, and put that on your Fiverr, and that can get more eyes on your profile. The next thing is social media. This is of course no secret, but a lot of times people just reach out to CEOs, founders, business owners, give them a cold message that they can do. Maybe perhaps give them a better logo, give them a better Instagram layout, either for free or for a price. On social media, you want to sound very human because there's a lot of bots emailing these people every day that, hey, I'll take this much and I'll give you this, but they can immediately tell that those are bots. So make sure that you have the right social media account when you're approaching these clients and that you have some work examples on that account. And that way, when they see your name, click on it, they can see that you have actual followers, even though they may not be that much when you first start. We have actual followers, actual posts, real people comment under them, and you can ensure them that they're not dealing with another bot. If you'd like, you can put your Fiverr link in this message or just have them reach out to you through a more traditional method off Fiverr. So now you have your first client, but how do you make sure that you're communicating with them in an efficient way and that you're not getting scammed or tricked throughout the process? So the most important thing is to keep everything on record. I've said this multiple times throughout this course, but it's really the one thing that can help you out if things go wrong. Anything regarding numbers, payments, deadlines, dates, the stuff that the client wants from you, you want to be as blunt as possible. Have them on record on an email, not on any message platforms where they can delete that message and then say that they never said that. So email is the best thing. It doesn't matter if this client is your best friend, your father's friend. There's always that chance that they want to go back on what they said, make you do extra work, and maybe not even pay you. So keep everything on record and save yourself the headache. So sometimes you get this client, it's great in the beginning, but then out of nowhere they start acting like they don't want to continue with you. They don't even like your services, and things just turn around 180 degrees. So when that happens, immediately detach yourself from that commitment because they will perhaps try to report you, and on Fiverr that's a big deal. You don't want to get on anyone's bad side. Try to be as professional as possible. If they start saying mean things or start harassing you for whatever reason, just report them immediately do not reply to them, do not try to get back at them, because you could get blacklisted on Fiverr. And if you're on any other platform, it's usually the same thing, because customers will get their way in these situations. So you don't want there to be trace of you saying bad things to them or you perhaps ignoring their requests. So by ending it, it's all a matter of ignoring or reporting if necessary. And just know that you're a freelancer in this situation and not just a regular person chatting with someone on the internet. Next, we're going to talk about personally identifiable informations. This is a huge concern on these platforms because people will start sharing their information such as their address, their email, their phone number, and maybe their social medias, and that should be an immediate red flag for you. When you see someone getting a bit too close to you, even if they're your favorite client, you need to report them immediately, because if Fiverr or any other platform finds that out, they could cancel your account and basically you lose all business. So of course, you as a freelancer can never share any of these private informations, but if they even start sharing a little bit of that with you, know exactly when to stop and when to report them. Now let's talk about some red flags that you will probably notice when you're on these platforms. First thing is when they try to move the conversation off to another platform. They maybe give you a phone number, they give you an email, and they're like, maybe they'll pretend like they're an old person. They're like, I don't know how to use Fiverr. Can you come over here and we talk privately? That is a red flag. Anytime you move Fiverr away as the middleman, they will figure that out and they might suspend your account. So when you see that happening, tell them that I am not allowed to do that. Fiverr has very strict rules regarding that, and just decline their offer. Secondly is when they want to pay you outside of Fiverr's payment methods. Maybe they're like, give me your PayPal username or address and I'll pay you this much more. Thank you for your time and whatever. That's another red flag, even though it sounds good. As mentioned, it could get you suspended. And sometimes there are people who are trying to do just that, especially when you first start out, because you're an easier target. Next is when they refuse to tell you exactly what they want. So they're being too generic. They're like, I want a logo. You ask them what kind, they don't reply, and you ask them a bunch of times and they still say, I just want a pretty logo, even though they may not actually know what it is they're looking for. You as a freelancer want to avoid wasting your time on these type of clients. So inform them that it's really important for you to know the details of the request, and that way it would be beneficial for both sides. Next is when someone who contacts you is pretending to work for Fiverr. So they'll message you saying that, unfortunately, your account is getting suspended. You've been reported. Usually there is a link to perhaps redeem your account. That is a scam. You will never receive a message like that from the Fiverr's official team. They don't usually do that. If there is a problem with your account, you will get an email, and of course check the email address to make sure it's from Fiverr. So sometimes you may get a concerning email from Fiverr, but when you check the email address, it's like 234@gmail.com. So that's obviously a scam. Do not click on any links and just ignore or report that email. Next is when people try to showcase themselves as someone that can help you get better results. They'll come to you and say, I'm really great at SEO. Let's work together. I can make your account shine or something. That's another red flag. If you really want someone to help you with a service like that, which takes a lot of time, you want to pay them. So go on Fiverr as a buyer, find that person who offers SEO services, and conduct your business that way. Don't rely on these people that, again, give you links or are pretending to be your friend. Those are usually scams and you should report them immediately. So those were some ways of communicating with clients. Bear in mind these red flags and all the concerning stuff that we talked about. Keep your account safe, keep yourself safe, report anything that is suspicious, and that way you will have an easier experience finding clients and dealing with them in the future. So there are certain basics that you have to follow for every freelance project, whether it's on Fiverr or any other freelancing platform. I've listed some of them out here, and we're just going to dive into each one going forward from this lesson. So the first thing you have to know is, what does the client want? They either make this clear to you in a proposal, or they come to your gig and fill in those requests that you set. Sometimes they email you, they chat with you on social media. Other times they may decide to ask for a meeting. Now, when I say effectively communicate, I'm not really talking about your tone or what words you use. I'm talking about documenting exactly what they need. So instead of you getting on a phone call with them and them telling you what they want, you should have them write that out in an email so that you have it in written format. That way you can always refer back to it if there's any sort of misunderstanding or you forgot one of the deliverables. So when you first meet with a client, greet them and all of that, but make sure that they somehow give their needs in written format. Now that you know what their needs are, you have to send them a proposal telling them exactly how you're going to address those needs. So this is the place where you tell them about the timeline, the pricing, any sort of things that they need to know. Is there any copyright concerns, any license concerns, etc.? And you want to inform them about the way you conduct your business within this proposal. And then you would want to go back and forth if they're like, oh, you missed this part, I also want X, and you just fix up that proposal. Once the proposal is finalized, that goes in a contract. So within a contract, the main point of it is that the client accepts your proposal, they accept your pricing, they accept the deliverables that you promised them, and they just sign it. Once you sign a contract, you can't really go back on it unless you terminate it. So if something comes up, depending on the terms that you have in that contract, you want to make sure that your client is informed. We are going to look at some proposal and contract templates in a further lesson, but this is just the general order. All right, so up until step 3, that's the communication with you and the client. From step 4 onwards until I think this step, it's about how you start that project. So first of all, you want to list out the deliverables. If it's a website, you want to give them a pay portal, user management, maybe an e-commerce section, whatever it is that they asked for. List them out either on a project management platform or on a piece of paper, and try to see which one's the most important and which one takes the longest. And that way you would know that what you're working with exactly. Because if you put everything in one giant box, project X, it's really hard to approach it. And if you're not feeling that motivated on that day, it's going to be hard for you to even start it. And that can lead to you falling back on the deadline. Speaking of deadlines, now you want to set time for each of these deliverables. So section A of your project that takes the longest, you're going to allocate 5 days for it, and you're going to set a deadline of July 3rd. And having these little deadlines for yourself at the moment, it's going to make sure that you complete the project in little and attainable increments. Now, if you want to set milestones with the client, so if you've done part A of the project and you want to get paid for that part alone, not that you're canceling the project, but as we spoke, you're basically making sure that you and the client are on the same page and that you're going to get paid for that. That's going to come at the end. So if you're planning on setting milestones, if it's on Fiverr, they have their own thing. But if they don't want to do it on Fiverr, make sure you include the milestones in your proposal and have them sign the contract as well. So once you've done all these parts, say there were 3 parts of this huge project, you want to notify the client via email. Again, you want a written format, no text messages or phone calls. You want to make sure you have evidence of everything that's going on. So you want to notify them of your changes. If it's a website, you can give them the visitor login credentials for the staging website that you did, just a username and password. Have them go on there, give their feedback, and you can go on from there. If it's a graphic design work, you're sending them the JPEG exports, not the full thing, because you're not sure if that's what they want at the moment. If it's something written, you're going to send them the final draft. So there's different ways to do it. Definitely don't send them the full final work because a lot of times they take it and they just ignore you, and that could be bad for your business. So once you've notified them via email, be sure to ask for feedback and give them a time frame. Have them list out all the things that they want fixed, and if there's nothing, then that's great. But once you have your feedbacks, you want to take them and notify them that how long it's going to take for you to implement those feedbacks. So if you're doing a website and they ask for a whole new page, first of all, we have to get that in writing, and then you have to tell them that, okay, this whole new page is going to take me another 2 days or so. So make sure you voice out this additional term so that they're aware. Once all the feedbacks has been implemented and both sides are happy, you can now go ahead and invoice. So Fiverr, if you get one of those paid services, has invoicing capabilities. If you don't want to pay them, you can go to this platform. It's free, and you get to create a really simple invoice over here. So this is what it looks like. You can put your logo in the corner, the client's billing address, the name, the currency. You can put your payment information down here. It's very flexible and it's easy and free until, I believe, 3 clients. So you can just, if you're dealing with one-time clients, you can just make that client account, delete it, make a new one, and that way you don't have to pay for anything. You can also go onto Canva or Adobe Express to make your own invoice template and just change the numbers every time. The problem with that is that you can't really see how much you've received, how much is pending, as there's no management for invoicing. Now that you've been paid and everyone's happy, it's time to take your work and put it on your portfolio or resume. And most importantly, get a review. A lot of people skip this step because it feels like it's awkward asking for people to provide a review on your account, say how well you did, if they liked you or not. But that is actually what gets you more clients in the future. So make sure you do that again via email, professional. Be like, it was great working with you. I would appreciate if you could leave me some ratings on my Fiverr profile or on my LinkedIn, wherever that you're working. You could also just get it as a text format and put it on your website. And you can just tell other future clients that there have been a history of happy clients. Okay, so those were the steps. Of course, depending on the industry that you're in, there may be some additional, or some of these can be skipped, but this is just some basics that you should know if you're starting to become a freelancer. Now, how do you manage your projects? There are tons of platforms out there that are very nice and interactive when it comes to managing deadlines, project notes, research, and all of that. And I'm going to share with you 4 of them today. Again, there's many out there, but these are just some that have been very popular in the industry. So I'm on it right now, the first one, and that's Notion. Notion not only lets you publish websites, it lets you have personal pages, work pages, different accounts. You can have teams if you're an agency, and there's just so much to this platform. So I'm just going to go to notion.so/gallery, and this is where you get templates. Now, the reason why we're here is because starting a Notion page from scratch for project management can take some time. So I think it's best to come up here and look for freelancer. And immediately we can see that we get tons of resources. So first is this dashboard. I'm going to open it in a new tab. Let's preview. So project, task, clients, invoices, active projects. And you can change this to whatever industry you're in. Back here we have outreach sheet. So this is where you would reach out to potential clients with cold emails, and you can put them out here. It's good to keep track of all these communications that you do. Let's go back here. There is a contract as well. So Notion is something that you should definitely check out. If you're not familiar with it, they have a mobile and desktop app. So it's very convenient. Second thing is monday.com. This one has also been pretty popular. It's an easy user interface, and like Notion, you can customize every part of it. look at different templates and make sure that you get things done on time. We also have Trello. This is similar to Notion and Monday.com, but it does have the automations feature. So say you want to have an automation for when a project is done, it automatically emails maybe the next person in your team that you've finished your part of the project. So you can set that up. There's rules, buttons, email reports, and send feedback. Those are pretty cool, and this is something else that you can consider. Then we have open source project management. I came across this recently, but I haven't used it as much. However, I've heard that it's pretty good. These are some of the previews. So let's go back to search results and look for project management. So I just got this from the search results. You add it to your workspace and it duplicates it. So over here, you can list out all your projects if they're finished, ongoing, or to be done in the future. You can make groups and have them listed down below. Once you click on one of these, you can put your project name, the status, the people in there, if there is anyone, the completion, and your deadline. You can put a few of the information that you know. Perhaps you can put in the part of the email where the client is telling you what they want. And you can always come and look back at this. And these are the sections that I was talking about where you break down a huge project into smaller sections. So let's say section A, which is the most important, and you just make your way down from that. Now, one thing that I do want to mention is that you want to have the biggest, just have them in order from the biggest to the smallest, as the biggest parts are usually the foundation of the project. So for example, if it's a website that you're doing, the first thing you got to do is, get the host, get a domain, lay out the pages, the menus and all of that. So that takes the longest, but it's also the first thing that you would have to do before you put in this custom page that the client wants. So list them out like this, set out a due date, and you can put whether they're done or not, and change their status. You can add additional things down here if you want, such as photos and etc. And it's overall a very flexible platform. Now, when you go down here, you can take a look at the task that you have to do. So this is the one we made. This is another view if this is going in here is too much work. You can just scroll down and look at it here. You can put in calendars as well, I believe. There we go. So you can see what's due and what's up and coming. Now, when it comes to these projects, of course, having a dashboard is great, but setting realistic goals is another important thing. I know when you go on Fiverr, you see people make these gigs where they promise to deliver a huge project in like one day, and that may intimidate you and make you want to set that term for your own projects. However, I do not recommend that because a lot of the people on Fiverr actually use other tools to get their work done. Perhaps they have templates they've made before, and that speeds their process. And if you try to replicate that without having your own templates or additional tools to speed your work, you could get in a lot of trouble. Client communication is another lesson that we're going to do, but you definitely don't want to promise something that you cannot do as a freelancer. If the client is unhappy with your terms, they could accelerate the problem and just be a really big headache for you. If you're working within a team, having platforms like Slack, Google Workspace, Google Chat is also great, just because you can make different channels and things can be very organized. But if you're a solo freelancer, you can just depend on platforms like these. So now that we know how we can start our project management dashboard and what are the basics of freelancing, we can now move on to working with deadlines and how we can best utilize our time to deliver these projects in an orderly fashion. Deadlines can be pretty overwhelming, especially when you first start out as a freelancer. You got all these deadlines, these big projects, you're not quite sure if your client will even like it, and that can lead to you messing up your schedule and eventually not being able to deliver the project on time. So we're going to go over some deadline tips and some tips for you to better manage your time as a freelancer. So as we mentioned before, you want to break your big project into smaller increments, and that way you can allocate certain weeks or certain days to each of them and ensure that you're getting them done in a orderly fashion. But first, I want you guys to list out your process for that specific project. If it's for copywriting, what is your process? What do you do first? And what are some things that you're going to need some extra time for? So it's always helpful to write down your process. This would be something you would be adding in your proposals as well, but it really helps to make sure that you're doing everything right in your own terms. So let's go over an example for copywriting. I'm going to need a topic from the client. I'm going to have to spend some time researching on that topic, writing out my ideas, brainstorming them, and then writing a draft, fixing that up for a final draft. So far I have 5 personal steps for copywriting. This will be different for you, and it especially changes when you're working with different industries. So whether you want to add that in your Notion workspace, on a piece of paper, on a blackboard, chalkboard, whichever way you prefer, make sure you are familiar with your own process and that you familiarize your client with it as well. So now that you have your process and you've broken down your project into smaller increments, we are going to see how we can allocate a time and set milestones for ourselves every week. So what I'm going to do is go to a platform called Whimsical. So Whimsical is a great interactive place for you to brainstorm, adding links, add in inspirations, and so on forth. There's different shapes you can add. You can make tables. There's sticky notes. You can have wireframe modes if you plan on using them. You can do mind maps and so much more. So what I'm going to do is to work with a sample project. So I'm going to get a rectangle right now and say that I'm doing copywriting. So this is my project. I got it from my client. They've told me what they wanted, which includes, let's make a thing below, make it a bit smaller. So they want it to be about burgers. That's our topic. From this topic, they want nutritional information, maybe pros and cons, best recipes, and stuff like that. I'm just gonna drag this here, and I'm basically just making a map for myself to break down this big project. So this is project A, copywriting. Okay, so just like writing this stuff. So if the person that requested this project wants me to write an article for burgers in New York City, I'm going to break down exactly what I think would make a great article out of that topic. You can add links here for me to refer to later. I just searched best burgers in New York City. And these are my 3 main increments. So for each of these, I first have to have a research phase. So I need to research each of these stuff and allocate time for these research. So I'm just going to go ahead and say 1 day for this whole research process. Say 1 to 2 days. I only have 3, but that can differ for you. And then after that, I need to write down my ideas. So for best locations, do I want to talk about maybe Brooklyn, just like narrowing down the list. With nutritional information, do I want to talk about the iron or the protein? And as I go forward, I'm going to keep increasing this. So this will be tailored to copywriting. So do I want to look out for iron and for tips? Let's see, fresh burgers. How do I get fresh burgers at these restaurants? And these are things that I just want to make sure I include in my article. Once I have this and I have all the information, I can use sticky notes to add in some important things that I want to add that I found during my research. I can invite people in here for them to share their ideas and just put in links for reference. If you're working with a different type of project, this would be, say, logo for nail salon. This would be your research. What did you find? Do you have some photos you want to add here? Some sketch ideas that you can add here. You can link the stuff you sketched on paper or on Photoshop, Illustrator, and just narrow down your steps. And now I want to see how long it's going to take me to do each of this. So we said that the research process is going to take 1 to 2 days. I will say another 1 to 2 days for drafting. So that is my map right now, and I can maybe turn the thing green once I've done that and leave out the ones that I haven't done or canceled as red. So visualizing the process is a great way for you to understand what's left and what needs to be done, and automatically you're going to think about how much time it's going to take for you to do each one. Okay, so once I have this, I want to now plan out my days and then my weeks. So for my day, I'm going to pick one of these bigger stuff and use 60% of my work hours on that one thing, and the rest of them I want to use it for the other stuff. So every day try to focus on one increment. So on Tuesday, I'm going to spend maybe 3 hours on best locations and maybe 1 hour on each of these. My main focus is to get this done first, and that's why I'm spending most of my time. So this is what I mean. I'm trying to visualize it here. Say I am only working with this particular project on Sunday. One of the main bigger increments was best locations, this row. So I want to spend a majority of my time on this bigger thing and 1 hour on that smaller thing that comes after doing these big stuff. So we said research comes first and then drafting. But I'm going to allocate most of my time for the research and a smaller bit for the drafting part. And this way I can make sure that by Monday or Tuesday, my best locations research is complete. And then I can move on to the drafting process, kind of switching this up. So this would be out the picture. And then I would have drafting where I'll be spending most of my time on this, 4 hours. And then the next smaller thing, maybe like citing. Okay. And then once that's complete, I can bring drafting up and then put in another smaller thing below it just to make sure I can get stuff done at the same time. But of course, keeping my focus on the bigger thing that's going to take the longest. So that's a good way to do it. And in terms of projects, if you have to work on multiple projects in one day, unfortunately, you do have to allocate most of your time to the most important one. That would usually be the one that's closer to the deadline, or the one that you're going to be struggling the most with, or the one that takes the longest. So it may seem possible to do 3 projects at the same time at the same rate, maybe spending 3 hours on each, but that can reduce your productivity. So try to focus on one thing for your workday. Now let's take a look at some tips that can help you manage your time better every day and every week. If you do not have a daily schedule, I do highly suggest that you start doing it, whether it's on paper, on Notion, on email, whatever place you feel most comfortable. It's good to set your daily goals from the day before. Now, the reason why I say this is that you don't want to spend that day that you could be very productive thinking about what you're going to do when you could have done that before you started that day. So if you are starting on Monday, use Sunday to think about goals you want to accomplish by the end of Monday. If Monday is going to be a day where you're also going to be outside on someone's birthday, try to think of a realistic time frame that you can have for actual work. So try to set realistic goals from the day before. Next, as we spoke, have one main focus for that day and try not to put everything in there. Or repeat the same schedule every day of the week, because when it's repetitive, you're just going to be tired of it and not get anything done. So for each day of the week, have one main focus. You can allocate 60%, 70%, depending on how big that focus is. But this will make sure that you can get those increments done as you progress in the week. Third is breaks. Now, it may seem like it's a bit unnecessary, especially if you have tight deadlines, but you don't want to overwork your brain, as it really does reduce your productivity. So take some time to go out for a walk, maybe clean your workspace, and then you can come back to work with a fresh mind and make sure that your productivity doesn't drop. Next is brainstorming sessions. Even though you may know what you're doing, it's always helpful to maybe look at some other stuff on the internet, get some fresh ideas on the go as you're making progress in your project. So if you're doing graphic design and you're trying to give a logo to your clients, maybe pick up a few logo design books, scroll through Pinterest just as a brainstorming session for you to get some creativity juices flowing. The last thing is to check in at the end of the day. How many of those goals did you accomplish and what is left? Now, if there is something left that you couldn't get done, say for Monday you were doing increment A, B, and C. If you did not have time to do C, that part is going to go at the top of Tuesday's schedule. So that way you can make sure that you're not falling behind schedule. So do that. Do not neglect any of those increments because you will probably forget about it, and that's not going to be very helpful when you're delivering stuff to the client. Now for your weekly schedule, when deciding whether or not you want to work on the weekends, check your planner and see what you could not finish during last week, and then you can decide whether or not you want to work with them during the weekend. That's where it's really important to jot down everything you're doing. It helps you keep track of things, helps you stay organized. It's easier on the brain when you know what's been done, what's been left, how much time you have left. If you decided to keep milestones, this is the time where you would be adding them in. Did you reach those milestones? Do you need to spend more time on them? Do you need to alter them for next week? All of that goes into this section. And if you've told your client that you're going to be reporting to them, this is the time to do it as well. So perhaps every Monday you would be giving them an email, or if they're on your Notion workspace, you would be having a report section for that. And this way you can make sure that you meet your deadline. Another thing that you must bear in mind is to set the deadline for yourself a couple days earlier than the official deadline. And that way you are allocating time for anything that may come up unexpectedly, any emergencies, and those extra days that you give yourself is going to be there for you to bounce back and not miss the official deadline. With freelancing, you are working at your own pace, at your own time. A lot of people work from their homes, but the problem with that can be that there's a lot of distractions. If you're living with your family, all that noise, all the stuff in your bedroom can kind of make you not stay focused on the task at hand. There are a lot of freelance workspaces in the cities. You can rent some of them or just go to the library. And just psychologically, when you change your workspace, you can focus better. So if you see that you can't get the task done every day, that may be an indication that you need to change where you work and perhaps remove all distractions from your phones, notifications, and all of that. There are also a lot of productivity apps out there for alarms, setting timers, and etc. So feel free to look at those and see what can help you with the issue that you have. So just to recap, you own your own time as a freelancer, so it's very important that you organize it well. Do check-ins, use any of these tools that we mentioned to keep track of what you're doing. Keeping a planner for your daily and weekly activities is another great way to organize your time. And lastly, you want to have everything ready a few days before the official deadline. So those were some tips on working with time and deadlines. Now let's talk about how you need to communicate with your client and how you can propose your ideas and services in the best way. Proposals and contracts are something that you should never skip and need to understand how important they are. A lot of freelancers, they end up trusting a client, so they skip these procedures. And when that client perhaps doesn't do what they promised and doesn't pay them, things will go south and there's no way to prove that you and this client had an agreement. So that is why I emphasize again to keep everything via written format. And in this lesson, we're going to learn how to make a proposal and how we can write contracts. The stuff that I'm going to show you are from the internet. It's standard all over the place. But if you are living in a country where there's strict rules regarding pricing, taxing, and all of that, be sure to do more research for your specific documents. Proposals are a document that you give to a client after you've understood their needs, and you're basically telling them everything about how you're going to make those needs come to life. It doesn't matter if you're a copywriter, voice actor, video editor. You all have your way of doing things, and you want to inform the client as much as you can before you even start the project. Without a proposal, you are just giving a small amount of information about how you conduct things, and then later in the project, they may not like that. They may ask you to do more things. They may cancel the whole project. So you're kind of guaranteeing your own safety with the proposals and then securing it with the contract. So one app that I really like to use for proposals that is very easy to use and it's also not boring is Tome.app. The thing about this is that when you give a written document, a bland document to your client, it's not as engaging and they may not even end up reading the whole thing. But with Tome, what it does is that it kind of looks like a presentation, but it's web-based. And you have freedom to change everything about it. So this right here is Tome.app. I just made an account. And this is where you get to not only make your proposals, but do a lot of other stuff. So if you're fundraising, you want to share a resume, your mood board, brand guidelines, design to developer handoff, you just click on them and it copies it for you. And you just take a look at the template. Everything you can edit. Over here, you can add your text, images, drawings, tables, charts, and many other stuff. Once you're done with creating your document, you just go into share and you can either get a QR code to put into like a poster or something. You can even put this in your business card if this is your portfolio or something. You can share a link and add people to your workspace if they want to change this presentation. And if you click this play button, it's going to show you how the client is going to see your document. So this is the client view and it's pretty good. Let's exit. Now for the purpose of this lesson, we're going to focus on a document that showcases your services and the prices for them. So I'm not going to focus too much on portfolios and whatnot because you would have that on Fiverr and if not on another website. So this is an example of a services document. I kind of removed these specifics, but you would put in a logo if you have one, a photo of yourself if you don't, the name of your company or your full name. And then we have table of contents for your client to know what they're getting at. Then we have an about and contact me page. Here you would want to give your clients a little bit of an explanation about what you do and then have an email for them to reach out to or fill out a form. And then over here you want to put your portfolio. Next, you're going to tell them about the list of services that you do. Even if they only ask for one of them, it's good for them to know that you can also do some other things that they may want in the future so they don't go to another freelancer. They just stick with you. So anything that you do, you would put it here. Maybe you can put your work sample. And here you would go more in depth. So everything that you do. I just skipped some animations here for now, but ideally they would have to be the works you've done before. Put in a little credit for who you did it for. So now you want to inform them about a process. You could do it in this format, or if there's more to it, do like a map sort of thing. But essentially, they need to know exactly what's going to happen so they can refer back to this presentation if they are confused or if they're just not familiar with how you do things. Next, you want to put in a few case studies in relation to the service that you're providing. So if it's websites, put in the website you've done recently, explain about how you did it, if there's any sketches or something. This helps them to kind of get a visual for how you conduct your business. Next is terms of service, which is very important. Every freelancer should have their own terms of service. Of course, there's the obvious ones, but again, depending on where you are, if there's any sort of time difference you want them to know about, Take your time to figure out what you want the client to know. Let them know if there's anything like rush fees that I got down here, or if they should know about voice memos and such. That way, if they do end up doing one of these things and you're not accepting it, you can be like, I already informed you in the proposal that you agreed to. So it's nice to have this here. And then finally, we have prices. So like Fiverr, you can bring those packages that you designed over there, put them up here, put the pricing in. And if you want to conduct things off Fiverr, it would still be the same thing. So the only difference is that Fiverr will not take your commission if you work with this freelancer, if you found them up outside of Fiverr. However, I believe Fiverr is very sensitive about taking clients that you found on there and then taking them out of the Fiverr platform. So avoid doing that. I think they are monitoring the chats and everything. So if you find someone on Fiverr, keep everything on that platform. But if you found someone outside of Fiverr, there's no need to bring them on there unless you want to perhaps boost your profile and get more reviews. Explain everything in the packages in depth. If there's any concerns or so, you want to put that at the bottom. Then finally, if you want, you can have additional costs and fees. I got a few over here that's applicable to design and any sort of media production, but it may be different for each industry. So rusher's fee is definitely something that you should put in there. And then just like Fiverr, we have extra stuff that if they wanted to, they will be charged for, and they need to give you a few days to do it. This is a personal slide, so tell them about you as a freelancer, as a person. Maybe you can list your hobbies, where you studied, and stuff like that, just to gain their trust. You want to tell them that you're a person, you're not some company, you're not just a logo, and they can connect with you, and you will be understanding of their demands on another level. So once we have this, as we said, you share it, we put the link in the email, and maybe the QR code if you want to make a business card out of it. So send a proposal to the client via email, and you would be basically telling them that this is my terms. If they have any question, they should reply to that email. Any problems about cost or the time frame, this is the time for them to address their concerns. Because once they sign the contract, they're basically saying that they're okay with everything you told them. And this method can be used for any sort of freelancing. On Fiverr, you kind of have the proposal made out for you. But I still want to share these with you guys just because you may want to have Fiverr, Upwork, and some other ways of income as a freelancer. Because when you first start out, one source is not enough. All right, so that was the proposal. Now let's look at a contract. Again, I'm relying on the contracts available on the internet, the standard form, but be sure to read every part carefully, and if needed, alter it according to the laws in your country or place. For example, the United States has very strict tax laws, income tax laws, so you cannot apply something from Europe for the United States because they have different rules. So make sure that you check that or address it in the search bar when you're looking for a template. So this is a very popular template for graphic design. It is applicable to other sorts of media work. If you're an editor, photographer, you could still use this. You can also look for copywriter contract template, or just look up for freelancer contracts and add the specifics yourself. So I downloaded this, it's free, and this is what it looks like. I have it open on Adobe Acrobat. So it's talking about the different parties. Each time you would make a copy from this document, put in their name, the address, and whatnot. And then here is where you are going to deliver the services. So exactly what they asked for and you agreed upon, put them up here. The deadline will be here. And if there's any sort of expenses, fees, put it here. Right here, you need to address the country that has the governing law. So that's why it's important. And then there's you and the client. You read everything, you sign it off, and then you're officially ready to go. Fiverr does not have contracts in this extent. Try to make your way of communication on the chats as thorough as possible. So bullet points and constant check-ins is very helpful for your case in case things go wrong. let's look at some other contracts and see where we can get them. So now we're searching for a web design. PandaDoc has one. So this is for web design, and there's also a way for them to sign it online and you will be notified. So every project that you do, no matter how small or how big it is, make sure that you have these two at hand. The proposal, you would have to make it once and then make copies and just alter it according to that project. The same thing with the contract. Once you have the base, you're just changing the different areas to your client specifications. And that way you're secure and good to go. Now that you know how to talk to clients, manage your time, work with deadlines, it's time for you to start getting out there and finding your next client on Fiverr and on other platforms so you can start making additional income. So the first one is Fiverr Analytics. You can just find this on Google. That's their URL. Just search Fiverr keyword generator and you can see it on the first row. So we're going to give it one keyword, and over here is where you want to add that niche that we discussed. So I believe we were modern startup logo. So I'm just going to put in startup logo for this. Generate. And it's giving me these suggested keywords, and you can see how they rank it for you. So here it gave me 7 keywords just from the one that I gave it. Notice how they're giving ranks for each one. Those are basically what's the most related to the input that you gave it. So I need to make sure that the word branding is visible in my gig multiple times, like the logo situation we found. So they said it 7 times. I should try to do something like that with the word branding. There's also business card, which may not be your main focus, but that is clearly something that a lot of people search for, and that's why they're on this list. So anything related to logo, people find it through these keywords. So make sure you include them. Depending on how important they are, rank them, as in put them in your gig multiple times. So brand guidelines, maybe once or twice, but branding definitely more. Next, we have a free AI Fiverr description generator. We already wrote our description, but if you'd like to make a generated one and then compare it, because they generated from data collected from all the other gigs, you can just type in your query. Let's do startup logo, generate, and see what we get. So here I got some pretty good description. So here it's saying as a startup, it's crucial to make a strong first impression. And then after that, I can tell them that I could make that a reality with my many skills. There is also good call to actions here. We're talking about brand identity, recognition, and all of that. So it generates these descriptions from the other gigs on Fiverr that have the keyword startup logo. Those gigs are probably doing great compared to ours, since we just started ours, and we can use that information to improve our descriptions. So if you just click on either one, I'm going to ask you to sign in, but you get the idea. We can just add in a few of these sentences and improve your descriptions. Another way to find out the best keywords for your gig is to just look it up for your niche. Let's go for top keywords on Fiverr for startup logo design. So here it's telling us with any logo gig, there should be the following. So these are what buyers are looking for. And whatever keyword is popular, you can easily find them on the internet through Google search or AI tools. And that way you will have a better chance at showing up on the buyer's top results. So those were some tools that can help you enhance your SEO game. Fiverr, all of them are very cool. There's plenty more out there. But these were just some that I wanted to share with you in this lesson. So I hope you guys enjoy this lesson. Let's move on to the next one where we learn how to upgrade the gig itself. So before starting the lesson, make sure that you have a gig on Fiverr, you've completed your profile, and that way we can make sure we're all going at the same pace. So previously, Fiverr used to have something called seller request, where sellers would have clients come to them. So that means that the buyer, the client, would come on Fiverr and be like, I need a logo. I have $25 to give and I want it by Friday. And then you would be, along with other freelancers, bidding on that project, saying that I can do one for you for $20 and give it to you by Thursday. Another person would do the same, and it was kind of like a bidding process. The client would then choose the one that they like the most. On Fiverr, you can have clients come to you and have you going to the client. So it works both ways. And it's definitely a good idea to do both of them when you're first starting out, just so you have a baseline that can grow from there. So I'm here in my dashboard. I just went to dashboard, and this whole thing that I just mentioned is in the My Business tab. So click on that. First, we have our orders. Anything that is active, denied, in queue, and other stuff is going to show up on this page. So priorities are the ones that are about to be expired, and you have to get them done ASAP. The active ones, the ones that are late, delivered, completed, canceled, and start. So you can manage them perfectly like this. You also get a lot of information on that. And if you get a lot of clients, you can just search to go back to one of them and just get all the information. I believe that Fiverr does keep all the history of your projects. There may expire after a couple months or so, but for the most part, you can always come back here and review what you've done and what happened with those projects. The second option is the gigs. So currently we have 1 gig. If it's active, it's going to show up here. Pending approval, here requires modification, draft, denied, paused. So as I mentioned, when you make a new gig, it kind of goes through a review process by the Fiverr team. And if there's anything wrong with it, you will be notified. And then you're supposed to fix it before it goes live. So when I click on this, I have the option to edit it, whether it's to publish it, modify it, or I could just delete the whole thing. You can create new gigs right here. And this is where the brief situation was. So you want to make sure you set a rate for these briefs, basically your minimum. So far we've been doing by project, but now think of this as your hourly rate. I'm going to go with 20 for now since I'm a beginner. If you don't want to get briefs, just turn it off. And there's this other thing called custom orders. If a client wants something like what you're offering, but wants a few tweaks, you can make a custom order for them. And there's an option that the clients can click on. However, if you feel like that's way too spontaneous and you want to stick to your routine, you can just turn it off. Next, we have the profile, which we've been here before, and then, of course, the earnings. So here you can see all that you've earned and even get some exports. For example, a statement you need for something, you can just ask Fiverr to give you one. Pretty easy to do. You will also, of course, get notified via email if you've got new earnings, if there's some problem with your bank, and etc. If you want to see how well your gig is doing, the impressions, the clicks, and orders. Now, one thing that I do want to point here, if you saw that you are getting impressions but no clicks, that's not a horrible thing. The most important thing that you want to focus on is getting impressions in the first place. That means that you are at least on the search results and people are looking at your thumbnail. And if you're not getting any clicks, that's an indication that you need to work on your thumbnail and your title. So your thumbnail, as we mentioned, should be very straight to the point. You don't want it to be some random drawing, but rather exactly what you're trying to offer. So right now we have a bunch of logos as our thumbnail. And if I saw that it's getting 100 impressions but 0 clicks, and it's been, say, a month, I need to step up my thumbnail game. Now, there are some ways that you can do that. I'm just going to head over to Canva. Alright, so it's similar to YouTube thumbnails. Some people like to put their faces on there, a nice headshot, professional, and then a big text next to it. So, minimal, modern logo, or amazing anime voice. So the big title immediately grabs the client's attention, and the photo next to it just earns their trust. You're telling them that you are a real human and not a bot. You're not AI, like a lot of the other designers on this platform. And that really does increase your chances of getting an order. So you can design it yourself, but there's all these templates that you can use. You can change it to the way you want them to and put this instead of your current thumbnail. Now, in terms of title, we looked at the plugin, which was Fiverr Mate. Use those information that you can extract with that plugin to find the best title for your gig. Be sure to use some buzzwords. It doesn't have to be bland, and that way you can increase your chances. Now, if you did all of that and it's still not working, you can turn your gigs into ads. If you go to growth and marketing, scale your business, you can first of all have a badge to put on someone's website or a blog. You can also share your profile on different social medias. Now let's copy this link. This goes to my profile, and look at where we can put this. A lot of these social media platforms have huge communities for Fiverr freelancers sharing their gigs. And the biggest ones are actually on Facebook. So search for Facebook Fiverr groups, and there are so many. I'm going to close that. So not only do people come here for requests, but you can also advertise your work. So this person is advertising their logos. This person wants a logo designer. It's a pretty big community, I believe. Yep, there's 38,000 people here. There are obviously smaller groups if you feel like this is way too intimidating. But Facebook is a great place to put in your work samples, whether or not you have them done on Fiverr. Put them to impress them and showcase your skills, and then direct them to Fiverr. The next place is on Reddit. So it's called Fiverr Gigs, very straight to the point. People will say what they will do, and there's a link to it. So that's another way that you can do it. There are other places too, but Facebook and Reddit are pretty popular in this field. I have also seen people advertise on YouTube in the comment section, but I'm not too sure how many people will see that. So if your gig is not doing so good, there are many ways to change that, whether it's going onto social media and advertising, whether you pay Fiverr to promote your gig and have it show up as a sponsored post, or if it's just by improving the way it looks through changing the title and putting in a better thumbnail. So those are things that you can keep in mind moving forward with the lesson. And before going to the next lesson, I do want you guys to create a thumbnail for your Fiverr gig, whether you choose to put your photo or not, just something that's very bright, grabs the attention, and then I want you guys to put it as your primary image so it's the first thing people will see. You can add the logos that you've designed around that thumbnail in the background, or have it be on the next slides. So I hope you guys enjoyed this lesson, and good luck improving your gigs. There are a lot of paid services that Fiverr offers for freelancers and agencies to use. I will be sharing 6 of them with you today, and each of them have a different price point. There are cheaper options included in the lesson's agenda, but these tools are made by Fiverr, so they're trustworthy. And they have proven to give more exposure to your either gigs, agency, business, and other stuff. So it's just a matter of making the choice to invest in it or not. So the first one is promoted gigs. If you see that your gigs are not getting any views, clicks, impressions, it may be time for you to make your first ad. I do suggest doing this at least a couple months after you made your gig, maybe 1 month, just because starting on Fiverr is already a slow process. So promoting it isn't going to help that much because you still have 0 orders, no rating, and whether the client sees it in the search results or as an ad, your gig is the problem. It doesn't have enough credentials to be selected. So wait until you have at least 1 or 2 orders. Again, as we talked about, you can use friends and family or people on social media to get those first orders. So if you just search for Fiverr promoted gigs on Google, you will be brought to this page. You can go down here, pay only for results. They pay for clicks on your ad. They have this feature, which I think is pretty cool. You only pay for the clicks on your ad and you can manage it at any time. So you set your daily budget, pay only for clicks. If anyone clicks on your ad, you only have to pay for that. And no credit card required. So it's pretty flexible. As mentioned, it's because it's made by Fiverr, so you're already a trusted client for them. So if you go on create your first ad, you need to be at least level 1. So that's why you need to get those orders in first. My gig is not eligible because I'm level 0. So you can see you need to be a level 1, 2 or above. And there's this thing about eligible gigs. So even if you are level 2, if your gig is not eligible, maybe it doesn't have enough reviews, doesn't have enough rating, you will not be able to promote it. It makes sense. Fiverr doesn't want to run ads where the service is like 2 stars and there's like only 1 client. So try your best to satisfy the clients that come your way, and that way you will not have a hard time with this promoted gigs feature. The next service that Fiverr offers is Fiverr Enterprise. This is for a business. If you are a big company, a team of either freelancers, consultants, and etc., this will be a good place for you to come to manage everything essentially. So not only can you hire people from either Fiverr or other places, you can manage your payments and invoices, manage your team, see what they're up to, and do a lot of other things. So down here, it's giving us a few previews, setting budgets for different departments. There's AI engines as well. If you need someone else for your team, you just hire directly from Fiverr. There's payments. So here are the use cases: marketing, finance and legal, procurements, and IT services. So this is a rather new thing that they brought, and you can book a demo to see if this works for your company. Now, if you're an agency on Fiverr trying to manage everyone and everything that they do on the traditional Fiverr platform, can be exhausting. As an agency, you want to make sure that projects are getting done on time, people are responsive, they're not bringing down the rating of your Fiverr account or the agency account. And investing in Fiverr agencies can be a great way for you to make sure everything goes well and your business just thrives. So let's go down here. There's meetings. You get your own dedicated page. You get filters and other stuff. They're still expanding it. Let's go over here. So this is what it would look like if you were an agency. Let's zoom in here. So a type of work that you've done before on Fiverr, there is essentially like a website. So your business name, what you do, 19 employees. This is the team. They could still contact your team individually, portfolio, and other stuff. So when someone searches for Instagram account management under regular people or just freelancers, you're going to get the agencies. They still have a rating and a minimum price. Next, we have Fiverr Workspace. This is a workspace for freelancers, so not for agencies or big businesses, but it's just about you getting your work organized, setting deadlines, having effective communications, and other stuff. So this is the Fiverr Workspace. You, like the Fiverr Enterprise, you get IT services, payment services, and all of that, except that this is for a singular freelancer. So invoices, this is how it works. There's a template, you put in your logo and all that, sets it for you, and you can connect your card and other accounts. There's also the time tracking and task, which is great for working with deadlines. We will go over some external websites if you're planning on not paying for any of these. Plenty of free options out there. The problem with that is that each platform has its limits and they still want you to pay for it. But we're going to look over those free platforms later. We got timesheets to make sure that they don't overpay you. There's an application similar to what Upwork had, and you get different stuff too. So if you want to set contracts with a client, which I highly recommend you do, this place can be great. They probably have templates for you and they have consultants that you can talk to. There's expense, time tracking, reports, tasks, and payments. In another lesson, we're going to talk about proposals and contracts. This is very important for kind of works where you have to give a client something after they've given you a request. So whether it's a video, it's a image, it's a graphic design work, proposals and contracts are extremely important because it kind of covers you in case things go wrong. So we'll talk about that later. Next is the Fiverr Pro. So this is if you want to stand out as a freelancer on the search results, you would subscribe to become a pro. So as a free freelancer on Fiverr, your ranking depends on your rating and how many projects you've done. But with the pro freelancers, it doesn't matter if you've only gotten 2 orders, you only have 4.5 rating. They're still going to do their best to make sure that you show up on those search results and you get recommended to the clients. So it says here that it's free, but you start as a free member. If you do want to run ads, then you obviously have to pay. But they do have money back guarantee. So there's no problem on that. You can become only pro vetted freelancer. So I guess you have to qualify. You can have multiple users per account. You can collaborate with your team, different payment methods. You get invoicing and other stuff. And these 2 user interfaces where you get to manage your project and your business. So something cool to invest in. You can try it for a little bit, see if it works for you, and then cancel if it didn't. Now, the last thing that I'm going to show you for this lesson is a platform that was for freelancers in the past, but Fiverr bought that platform recently. And that is the working, not working platform. So this used to be very popular. It still is, but it was not run by Fiverr before. Over here, you still make your accounts. You show up on people's feeds. You send them a message and you basically get clients. Down here is your portfolio. It's a pretty cool platform. It's a lot different than Fiverr. So if you want, you could also have your account here and have a bunch of gigs here in case you're looking to get more clients. So this is another platform that you can check out. As far as I know, it's free to start. I'm sure at some point they want you to pay, but you can completely operate it without paying for anything. So you just go over there, sign up, and you can get started. So those were some of Fiverr's paid services. They vary in price, but all of them have money back guarantee. And since you are a Fiverr member, you can just migrate all your information onto one of these paid services. So if you saw that you're not getting enough traction, you can definitely try one of these services for a few months or a few weeks, see how it goes, and then see if you want to depend on that or not. So I hope you guys enjoyed this lesson. In the next part of the course, we're going to look at how we can successfully operate as a freelancer in terms of project management, dealing with deadlines, communicating with clients, and how you just create your own workflow as a freelancer. The only way that clients can find your specific gig is through the right keywords. And that leads us to the topic of SEO within Fiverr. So previously we did talk about it and we went over other profiles, looked at what kind of stuff they were selling, and we tried to incorporate specific words that would best describe our business. So now I do have the gig that we made in a previous lesson. Before we begin, make sure you have a gig as well. And that way we can compare what we had before with what we would get by the end of this lesson. My profile is now complete in terms of information and I have my first gig. So the gig isn't live yet because they're still reviewing my gig, but that should not take very long to happen. One disclaimer that I do want to give is that my username right now is not my real name, and that's because I wanted to start with a new account to show you guys how all this works. So make sure that that's not the case with you and that you're using your professional email. So this is just for the purpose of this course. So the traditional way of finding the right keywords for your gigs is, researching the market, jotting down the words that you see most often. Say the word minimalist logo is in every single successful gig that you're looking at. That may be something that you would want to consider putting in your gig as well. But doing that is going to take a while and would have to read everything from their title to the description, and that could just be time consuming. I do want to introduce a plugin in this course, a Chrome extension, that's going to analyze the Fiverr profile of the gig and just highlights the keywords that are making that gig successful. So that's going to save you a lot of time, and we're going to have that extension throughout the rest of the course and go back to it when we need to. So let's open a new tab and look for the Fiverr Mate Chrome extension. So as you can see, it's a Fiverr Gig SEO tool. I'm going to add it to Chrome. And they do have some packages. I'm just going to go with the free version right now. I suggest you do the same if you saw that it's working out for you, it's helping your gigs get more views. Then of course you can go ahead and upgrade to the Pro version. But for the purpose of this lesson, this is enough. I'm simply going to subscribe and basically make an account, and then I'll be back so we can see how it can be implemented for our purpose. So once you've verified your account, you just go down to My Add-ons and get your login key right here. So once I've logged in and verified, added my login key, I can go ahead and start using this plugin. So it's right over there in the top right. And the first thing that I need to do is switch to buying and start looking at the very successful logo gigs. So let's go with this one. First in this 3 modern minimalist logos. I'm just trying to demonstrate how this works. This is obviously not for startups. But when you scroll down, you can see this new bar added by Fiverr Mate. So you can either search manually and see if this is like concentrating on the niche that you're trying to concentrate on. So let's search for logo and see how many times this person mentioned it. So they mentioned it 7 times, and that may seem like a lot, but that's the whole point of the keyword emphasis. So notice how they're always adding an adjective before the logo. So timeless logo, high quality logo, authentic and custom logo, detailed logo, minimalist logo, real estate, and so on forth. Now, another cool way to use this plugin is to search for your niche and then have this plugin analyze the tags that are within the search results and, of course, their keywords. Let's search for startup logo, and this section is going to pop up. So immediately we can see all the tags. So if you want to improve your tag list, just go ahead and copy all of these guys or some of them. You can copy them right here and then put it straight into your gig. So let's actually do that at the same time. Go to Seller Dashboard and go to Profile, edit our gig, and try to make it better. So I'm just going to look at what I have here. I have logo in all 5, but over here I can see that the top ones are obviously startup logo, there's tech logo, technology logo, crypto, and all that stuff. So I'm going to just have to incorporate some of that in there. So for example, the word business is very broad. You can have all sorts of business. So I'm going to remove that and instead put in technology logo, since we said we're going to work with the finance sector of startups. Technology logo. And then we can do some other stuff. I believe we have modern. Okay, I'll remove the word logo since It's very broad, like we said. Instead, I'm going to add in brand logo because it relates to our brand designer title. And one thing that I do want to point out, a lot of these guys, they are used in the gigs below, such as, let's see, I just saw one. Flat minimalist, typography, word mark, letter mark, and all that stuff. These are terms used in graphic design in relation to a logo. It basically tells you the type of logo that is being designed. So if you search types of logos, you can see that this is what word mark is. We saw letter mark as well, and other stuff. So my point here is that a lot of clients are not graphic designers and they're not familiar with these technical terms that a graphic designer would know. So you don't want to have that in your tags because the chances of people knowing the difference between a typography logo and a wordmark logo is very low, especially when they're the buyers and not the designers themselves. Rarely there is a designer that comes on here, but it's usually someone with a business who wants a logo and they just want something that looks good. So try not to get too technical. However, the word minimalist is something used almost everywhere. Everyone's familiar with what that means. It calls for something clean, something minimal, and the person doesn't have to be a designer to know exactly what that's going to look like. Things like technology logo, everyone can imagine what that is, but try not to use too technical terms just in case most of your buyers are not familiar with them. So let's go up here. We do have some additional stuff that we can work with. There is suggested keyword analyzer. And I'm just going to, I only have 5 left, but that's because I'm on the free version. Let's search startup logo and generate keywords. So these are the keywords that it generated from the stuff that's on Fiverr right now. Again, we're seeing business card, website design, even though that's not what we're offering. These keywords will at least help you get to the first page of the search results. We have some other features that are not available at the moment, but it's going to be available soon. I just clicked on Analyze Keywords, and we can see that for branding, we have quite a lot of competitors. Average orders, this much revenue, reviews, grading, dominant level, and stuff. We do have this recommendation section, which is very cool. It basically tells you if you should even compete with this keyword in this saturated market. Because graphic design is one of the biggest categories within Fiverr. So definitely use these tools to get a heads up and hopefully get your clients. So recommendation for graphic design, as it's the broadest term, is not that easy, and the dominant levels are level 2. So right now we are level 1, so trying to compete in a level 2 dominant group is going to be a bit difficult just because everyone within that competition is level 2, and we're just kind of already behind because we need to upgrade first. So this right here, brand style guide, is something that I can add into my gig, and it's pretty easy to get in there. So let's copy that, go over here, positive keywords. I will remove brand logo and just paste in the brand style guide. There we go. So now my keywords are a lot better. Let's close this off. Some of these features are not exactly working that well, but I'm sure they'll fix it up soon. You can download us the metadata. That's a pretty cool feature. I just clicked on the gig titles and it gave me this CSV file. Alright, so it gave me all the titles of the best performing gigs. This could be helpful when generating your own title, and you can just save this. Control F and search for the keyword that you were fixated on to see if it's even that popular. So let's do startup 52 times. That's pretty good. Let's go with brand, just brand 8 times. So it's probably best to not use the word brand in my title. Let's go with modern 28 times. Logo 52 times. Okay. Try minimalist. Okay, so modern is better than minimalist. And yeah, so this is how you would check your keywords to see if they're even that present in the search results. Let's delete that. We have the gig tags, gives you another CVS file, and you could get the descriptions too, but you need to upgrade. All right, so these are the tags, I believe. There we go. So each gig has 5 tags, and let me just search my tags, the one that I wrote, and see how popular they are. Startup logo. What else did we do? Finance logo. Let's see if that's even there. Not there. Technology logo and modern logo. 13 times. Modern logo 12 times. Okay, so the finance is pretty niche. Now the chances of someone searching the word finance logo in the search bar is quite low, but with you keeping this tag in your search tags, you will be one of the first ones that show up on that search result page for those small amount of searchers. So just because it's not there in the most popular tags, it doesn't mean that you have to remove it. So it's good to have a combination of really niche tags such as finance logo and popular tags like modern logo. And yeah, so that is the plugin that I wanted to introduce. Be sure to check back with it and you can basically get some of the newer features that they still haven't released. So when we scroll down, we can see that it has some additional stuff as well, but not for every gig for some reason, but in particular, it's focused on the top gigs, which is actually a good thing for us. So we can see, can't really see how many people bought it, but immediately the 5 tags they've got. We can see some common tags and I can just copy them all at the same time. And we are getting a keyword match as well from what we initially searched, logo, the word logo. So it's a pretty cool plugin and I do suggest you guys having it. It will make your SEO job a lot easier. Now I want to show you guys some other tools if you're not into plugins or you're having a hard time installing it. And those are just stuff that you can get on your browser, their websites. And let's get started with those. Setting your prices on Fiverr can get a bit tricky, especially when you first start out. You don't want to put a price that is way too expensive for what you're trying to give, and you don't want to sell yourself short. So there are many ways to calculate how much you should charge given the commission that Fiverr will take, the time it takes for you to deliver the service, and the value that you're putting in there. So I have some tools again to show you guys that will help you calculate your prices better. And if you're completely new to Fiverr, I will tell you how much Fiverr will take as commission and how you can best calculate your prices. So in the last lessons, we kept our current price starting at $5 based off what we saw in the market research section of the course. So if Fiverr is going to be either your primary or secondary source of income, you want to make sure that you're putting the right price so that it can cover the time that you're putting into your work, the tools that you're using, the value you're putting in there, and that it can help you pay your expenses. Now, a lot of people use Fiverr as a part-time role, but a lot of people fully rely on Fiverr to get steady income. So first, let's talk about time. I know we said in the gig that we're going to deliver the logo in 2 days, but there's actually a lot more that goes into that, and it's not going to be really told to the client. So I'm going to stick with graphic design for this lesson, just because that's what we have as our gig. So designing a logo is going to need you to do some brainstorming, some research, communicating with the client, and some resources such as Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop, and so on and forth. So if you're saying that you're going to deliver in 2 days, how much of that 2 days is dedicated to this particular logo? In order to calculate that, you can try timing yourself every time you're working on this project and then use that as a reference when you're trying to, say, increase your prices or set your prices for another gig. So there are many tools out there that can help track your work for each project. One of my favorite tools is a mobile app called Toggle Track. It's right there, I think there's a web version too. But on the App Store, this is what it looks like. The great thing about this is that you get to have different projects, and then you are going to just start a timer on each of them separately. So it's not like the built-in clock application, but let me see if I can show you guys. So let's try using it for free. I'm going to make an account, and then I'm brought into this interface. So the way this works, this is also available on the mobile. I'm not sure if I mentioned that. Is that you add a project, say logo for client B. We have some advanced option. If you're having a certain time frame, if you have a deadline, you can put it and just give it some additional stuff. There's different plans. Let's create our project. And then once I have my project, I'm going to just start the timer. So whether I'm brainstorming, thinking, sketching, editing, and all of that, I would want to have this timer go off. If you're taking breaks, make sure to turn this off, and that way you're not charging extra for your client without knowing. Once I stop my entry, it's going to show up right here. And then I can see how much time did I spend on logo for client B in the span of 2 weeks, 1 month, 2 days even. And then based off that, I can decide how much I want to charge for just the amount of time I'm putting in. So let's go to projects, and I could do multiple projects. So logo for client C, create project. And then I could just select it here. So now I want to switch to client C, start my timer, and see how much it takes. Using tools like this, you can get an average and try to set a by the hour rate based off the internet too. So that's for time. Next, we want to look at what stuff are we using, what programs are we using, and are we even paying for them? So if you're using the free version of Canva, say for your logos, you don't really need to charge extra for that program since it's free. But if you have an Adobe subscription and you're paying X amount every month for Photoshop, you want to make sure that the amount that you're taking from your client can cover that as well. Because if you undercharge, then you won't be able to pay for your Adobe program, and that's not going to be very helpful. So that was your time and your program. Next is the value that you provide. So if you've just started to design and you have, say, 5 months of experience, you obviously cannot charge as much as someone who's worked as a graphic designer for 10 years. So try to see what the minimum amount is for someone with your experience and your value, and then set your prices based off that. Now we can get into the Fiverr fees calculator. I have 4 websites here, plenty to choose from. Just as a general rule, Fiverr takes 20% commission when you first start. So if you're level 1, 20% of what you make will be going to Fiverr. As you upgrade, it does get less. You can see it starts at 20%. And then when you get memberships, it kind of goes down. Bottom line, it's 9%. So the more you sell on Fiverr, the more clients you get, the less you have to pay in commissions. So I'm going to go here to finalfees.com/Fiverr. If I made $50 from this client and the tax rate differs from, and I'm not going to put a tax rate now, it differs on your country. You can see that Fiverr will take $10. And if you're getting the money with PayPal is going to take 1.75. Tells us the profit, the margin, the return, and all that stuff. If you want to see if you're undercharging or overcharging, these calculators are great, and there's just tons of them out there. So $5 right now is suitable for me that's going to spend 2 hours on designing these logos with a Canva tool, and I am a complete beginner. $5 is perfect. As I get clients on this and I saw that I have, say, 10 people in my queue, they're all trying to get my gig, that is an indicator that I get to upgrade, because when you have clients, that adds to the value that you're providing. You're providing the experience you gathered from those projects. So if you've never had a client before, $5 is a great place to start. Once you start getting clients and you just have so many of them coming at you, you're kind of overwhelmed, then you can increase your prices. And it is just a gradual process, just as leveling up is. So the levels in Fiverr lets the buyers know how experienced you are on this particular platform. So it doesn't matter if you've had 10 years of experience. When you first sign up on Fiverr, you will start at level 0. And that is precisely what we have here, even though we have experience. So if you go to level overview, I just went to dashboard, level overview. We can see what I need to do in order to level up. So there is level 0, level 1, 2, and 3. And 3 is the top rated one. You can see the minimum requirements down below. You can compare the benefits. The higher level you are, the less competition you have to deal with, because Fiverr will just put you above everyone else automatically. You can find out more about the systems right here. So I need 5 success scores. If I click on them, it's going to... Now the success score that you see here relates to how many times you were able to deliver the stuff to the client successfully. So it's just about how many times you finished a project. If the client cancels halfway, that does not count towards your score. So in order for me to get to level 1, I need 5 successful clients to be eligible. The next metric is the rating they give you. So you finish the project, but is the client happy with what you've given them? So you're going to need a 4.4. Next is the response rate. This refers to how fast you respond to clients, whether it's via chat or email. I would highly suggest having Fiverr on your phone, turning on the notifications so you never miss a request from your clients, because as we can see, it matters a lot. You need a score of 80 for that to happen. The next one is your orders. So this is not really about whether the client liked it, whether it was successful. It's just about getting that order. So we only need 5 in order to qualify for level 1. And a great way to get started, because it's rather difficult to get those 5 orders, is to ask your friends and family to just come up here, put in an order, maybe write a review for you. And that way you're kind of getting your foot in the door and will be more visible towards actual clients. Now, those friends and families can, of course, be clients as well, but that is just a great way to get started with this whole competition that you're in. Now, if you have experience with your expertise, you can go ahead and ask your previous clients, the real clients, to come up here and write you a review. Now, they don't necessarily have to come in and buy something from you, but their review alone will help you a great amount. It will give you a rating, it will make your profile pop and appear more on those search results. So whether it's a friend or a family or an actual client, try to get as many people on your profile as possible. This one is for unique clients. So for buyers, you can't have the same person buying 5 times. You're going to need different people each time. Then finally, it's earnings. They have it listed here. And that is it. So 6 criteria that you need to focus on. Of course, it all comes to you with time, but it's good to have these in mind when you're responding to clients and performing your duties as a freelancer. So those were some tips on how to better price your services and how you can level up within Fiverr. Now, going forward, we're still going to be constantly talking about these 2 topics. This was just a general overview to bear in mind before we move on with the next lesson. So this is the first thing you will see when you look for Fiverr. They've recently changed their interface, but essentially over here, you can get freelance works and you can become a freelancer. So right now I'm looking at this as a client looking for freelance services. And the way that you would change to becoming a freelancer is by clicking on become a seller. So now this is a whole different interface, and essentially you make your profile, you make your gigs, you set your terms, And there are two different ways in which you can actually get work. One is where the clients come to you, and the other one is where you go to the client. So you can see a bit more about some success stories, steps, some Q&A, pretty simple and straightforward. What we're going to do in this lesson is make an account and set up our profile, and that way we can get started. So let's click on Become a Seller. So make your new account with whichever way you prefer, and then we can just go ahead and continue. So now that I'm signed in, I'm going to see my image right here. We're just going to click on it and head over to Profile. All right, so this is where I get to set things up my way. First of all, we're going to change our display name into whatever we want. So let's do Olivia K. It's best to use your full real name rather than a nickname. That way people can trust you more. And when it comes to legalities, everything will be suitable. So I'm going to do Olivia K. You would put your full last name here. Save display name. And now we're just going to come down here and edit our stuff. So first is your description. Here it does tell you to put in your hobbies, additional expertise, and etc. But it's best to be upfront about what you can do for the client. So say you were a lawyer for 13 years. That's what you would add here. If you're a graphic designer specializing in posters, that's something you would put in here. So be very specific, straight to the point. First sentence, what can you do for your potential clients? So you would add that here. Then we have languages. Basically, any language that you do know. I wouldn't suggest putting in languages where you're not fluent in, because clients will come to you and basically ask for maybe a translation of a document. If you're a graphic designer, design something in, say, Spanish. And if you put a language that you're not fluent in, then that will be an awkward conversation that you're going to have with your client. So only put in your native language and those that are you're fully confident in. So I'm just going to go over here and put in Spanish, and I'm going to say I'm fluent, add that in there. With English, can put our native language. Skills, we're going to come back to descriptions later. So with skills, we want to start from the thing that we're best at and make our way down from there. But we don't want to oversaturate our skill set, just because the main thing that could get you clients on Fiverr is actually your niche rather than the number of skills. So it's actually quality over quantity in this case. And the first skill that the client should see is going to have to be your best skill. And then the other two, because we're only doing 2 to 3, the other two should be something related to that. So you can't say that you do anime voice acting and then you do, 3D printing on the side. That kind of does not help in gaining the trust of your client. However, if you do 3D design and you do 3D printing as well as, say, 3D modeling, things that are in the same category, this is actually giving your client more options if they were to expand their project. So say they only wanted you to design a 3D character. They've come on your profile and they see that you also do 3D printing and you also do maybe game development. Instead of going to another freelancer, they could just come back to you because it's in that project requirement or related to that project. So let's go over here and I'm just going to go and focus on graphic design. So let's do graphic design and get more specific with it. If I'm really good at logos and that's what's my portfolio is composed of, I'm going to have to choose that. So say this is my main skill. We're going to add that there. Branding is related to that. So you have a logo for your business, but your business should have a brand identity. So that's something that I could add here. So logo, brand. Third, we think about a business's products. That's where product design comes in handy. So if one of my clients comes for either one of these, I'm giving them the option to expand their business, their project more, because I offer related skills. Next is your education. You can either not put anything in here, put in your certificates instead. That's completely up to you. Obviously, if you have the right credentials, they're going to trust you more, but you don't necessarily need to have a huge educational background, because at the end of the day, they're going to see the works that you've done. If they like it, they'll hire you. If not, then they won't. So if you do not have an impressive educational background, don't be frazzled at all. You can just focus on your portfolio up here. Okay, so let's go back to our description. You could type this out, but a faster way to do it is to go into ChatGPT and have it compose a description for you based on what's popular on Fiverr. So that's kind of like an SEO thing. So let's do write me a Fiverr seller description as a logo designer with 10 years of experience. So in the second half here, put in what makes you credible. It could be 10 years of experience or with a niche in the food industry, whatever works for you. And it's going to write it up for you. It may give you a lot of text. You don't necessarily have to put all of that in because they're not going to read all of this. But as you can see, it is driving you in with things that would intrigue a client. So are you looking for stunning, memorable, professional logo, perfectly represents your brand? You've come to the right place. So rhetorical question. Or you could start from here. I'm blank, seasonal logo designer. Then after this, you could put the other stuff that could potentially convince the client to choose you over them. If you've worked with any high profile clients, you can put their name there. You can say how many projects you've worked on. Are you self-taught? Did you graduate from Harvard? Whatever. And you would put it in your description. So let's change this to Olivia. So creating unique and impactful logos for, let me put a niche here, say finance, businesses of all sizes. All right, so that's my description. We can always edit these at any time, so it's not set in stone. They recently added this learn from Fiverr element, which basically if you click on it, it's a bunch of courses for you to enroll in, and then you would get the certification that would show up right below. So if you do want to hone in your skills, you would come here. Some of them are pretty good, especially the ones with the bestseller marks. See, there's one for graphic design. This person is pretty famous, so you can see that there's plenty of good options over there. Okay, let's close that. So before we go into setting up our gigs and our services, I'm just going to give you a quick overview about what's going on up here and what other services Fiverr gives to you as a seller. So there's obviously all these categories that you can look at for inspiration, see what the top freelancers do in your niche. So if I go to graphic design, let's go to logo design. That's kind of what we're going to do. I'm going to go from here. And we can see some of the gigs that are doing so well. So this is what the services that other freelancers have put out look like. They show up like this. We see their name up here. You can also do ads. So notice how these guys are ads. These are not. There's levels, and the higher the level, the better the freelancer. We have top rated. That will obviously catch your client's eye. We'll look at how we can level up in Fiverr in a further lesson. You can also become Fiverr's choice, and that is just dependent on how much people like you. And by people, I mean past clients. So there's that one-liner that is going to show up here. So what will you do for this client? The I will part is going to be there, and you're just going to put in the rest yourself. The ratings of these freelancers, their services, and how many people have used this service. If you go on the photos, you can look at the others, and there's ways to filter them. You can also choose in the logo style. So this again goes back to your niche. So what kind of logo styles are you going to do for your clients? Let's choose minimalist. So file format, I'm going to be offering them PNG, AI, and JPEG. Service includes transparency, vectors, that source file, all that. Let's apply. Seller detail. Let's choose what a top seller offers. They speak English. Doesn't really matter where they live. And then the budget. So how much will I be charging my clients? I would choose that. So let's go with value for now. Apply. Delivery time. Let's say up to 3 days. All right, so this person right here has had over 1,000 clients, 4.8, and they do the pricing from 33. So what you want to do is to go on Fiverr, same way that we just did, and study what they're doing. So what are they doing right? How do they preview their skills, and what are they informing their clients about? We can look at their packages. So you will have the option to make a basic package, which is your cheapest package, level up to standard, slightly pricier, and then we have premium. So when we look at how we can set up our services, we will be able to make 3 packages for our skills, for our service, and you can come and look at these people and see what they offer. And if it's doing so well for them, we could do something like that. You can go down here and see what they include in their gig description. So there's a Why Me section, deliverables, notes, and this is their profile. So this is the description that they created, the one that we were looking at earlier. So that's where it's going to show up. We have a compare packages section between these 3. Helps the client choose which one's best. There's frequently asked questions. We get to set this up ourselves. We ask the questions and put in the answers. Of course, finally, we have the reviews. There's a contact option. So that's just a chat box. We do get to choose how the clients can contact us. Is it via only email? Can they chat with you? Can they call you? That's all up to you. And yeah, so take your time to study some of these things. In a further lesson, we're going to dive deeper into this and see what we can gather from all of these freelancers. Let's go back to our profile. And these were the sections. Up here, we have notifications. So if someone contacts you, you win a gig, someone hires you, it shows up here. We have messages. Anyone that tries to chat with you or email you, you're going to get it here. There is the list. So you have go-to freelancers that you want to use as inspiration. You would like their services and it will show up here. Kind of like a vision board in a way. We have the orders. So the orders that come in from your clients are going to show up here. With the profile, we have post a request, which is basically, if I go over here, is if you're looking for something to get done as a client, you could do that too, which is what we saw earlier. So post a request, refer to a friend. I'm sure you get a compensation for that if they come onto Fiverr. Become a seller, which we already are. Settings, billing and payments, and other stuff. If you are an agency, there is a team option, but you would have to upgrade to Pro. So there's the other Pro services if you want to hire someone. If you want to offer services as an agency, this is where you would go. So this was a general overview of how we can make our profile. The profile is really easy to make, as you saw. The main part is how you set up your gigs and how you sell yourself on this platform, which we're going to get into later. So I'll see you guys in the next lesson where we set up our first gig. Now we're back with writing our description for our first gig. So as mentioned in the previous lesson, the description is one of the most important parts of your gigs because it's basically going to convince the client to stay on your gig and purchase your packages. So what you're going to start with in your descriptions, let's go to this person, is tell them a bit about you, but only about the stuff that they would care about. So they want to make sure you are a graphic designer and you are qualified and what you promise to the client. Then you can tell them a bit about your process and why it's better than the other people. So this person has a questionnaire where they will take these stuff in order to make the process easier. And they're just telling the client a bit about the packages, more in depth than what you can see here. Okay, so let's go back in here. This person, let's view what they have. Okay, so they didn't introduce themselves, but again, very straight up with what the client will get and a call to action for if they have questions. By the way, if you were wondering, clients can easily message you like this. So I'm in the client view right now. Okay, let's go here and start writing. So let's do, my name is Olivia and I've been a logo designer for more than 10 years. My expertise is in finance startups, and I'm here to make your logo perfectly represent your business. Then we can do a little comparison. So why me? And do some bullet points. So say 10 years of experience, designed more or like 100 plus logos, work with 20 startups. You can add plus just to make it more interesting. Effective communicator, then familiar with the industry. And then we can do another set of bullet points for what you will get. So let's put in, actually depending on the package you choose, we can write different file formats, clean and modern logos, source file, 3D mockups, control over details, and that is it. Now we can go ahead, let me just format this better. Now we can go ahead and tell them conclude what we just said and then finally have a call to action. So let's go with my expertise and experience. Your business can thrive with the right brand identity. I will help turn your ideas into reality using the top-notch techniques to deliver high-quality results. Contact me now for more information. Give your business a chance to shine. Let's go with startup here. All right, so this is a general overview that you can follow. Of course, if there's anything else, you can add it in there. But overall, try to keep everything nice and clean. Bullet points are very helpful. You don't want to have like a bunch of paragraphs that are condensed with text because chances are people are not going to read them. So nice and clean like this. And we could actually use the bold or italics to format the thing better. So let's add the bold, the stuff that really matters. So 10 years of experience. And then here, 100 plus, 10 years of experience, 20 plus startups. And then some key points that they want to consider. I'll turn that into italic. Let's see, top-notch technologies. And then I'm just going to make this bold. That's my call to action. And now my description is complete. Let's turn these into italics. We do have a highlight option as well. So that's what it looks like. You can use that. But I like keeping things a bit clean. I wouldn't suggest using all three because then it's going to be too much for them to look at and it it might not be that easy on the eyes. So recently they have the milestone workflow. This is for gigs that are rather expensive, so $100 or more. We don't fit into that category, but essentially it ensures that you get paid throughout this longer process. So say if we had something like this person, let me see if they have milestones. Okay, they don't have milestones, but they are charging $244. So they want to make sure that you stick around till the end to get everything that you need, and of course for this person to get paid. So with milestones, what they're going to do is say after they give you the logo concept that takes like a day or something, they're going to ask you to approve it and then pay them, say, $40 from this entire amount. Then once they give you the 3D mockups, they're going to ask for another $100, and they go on this way to get the finalized money in small increments. This is kind of like an insurance thing, and it guarantees that your client doesn't just cancel and go away. Of course, when they do cancel, there is like a cancellation fee, I believe, but a lot of sellers like to use the milestones to make sure they get the full amount. Okay, now just to show you what this looks like, I'm going to go back and turn my premium into 150. This way I can show you what that looks like, especially if you're going to do like programming and all of that. Now it needs the basic package. If you're going to do some sort of programming, you want to make sure that you are getting paid for all the time that you're putting in. There we go. So my basic is $500. It just has to be above 100. There is templates. So that includes the first milestone is onboarding. Make sure we've aligned for the project. And if you want to make up a project brief document that you want to share with the client before you actually start coding, in a sense, you can put that in there. I will say for the basic package. Then there's the research and preparations. Can you put in your price, design, and all of that. You could delete any of these if it's too many. You can add a fifth milestone. Just anything that can guarantee that you're making sure that you and the client are on the same page. So definitely use milestones if you're offering a service that just takes a lot of time, and it would suck if they canceled mid-project. Okay, let's go back here. I believe that was 25. Save and continue. We don't need milestones anymore. Then we have this section for frequently asked questions. This is a great way to let your clients know exactly how you conduct your business, what they need to know before even contacting you, what you're going to need from them, and etc. So here it is an example. Can you provide a British accent? Of course, I've lived in England for 3 years, and that sort of thing. So in regards to my business, we can do, let's say, can you accept reference photos when designing? I'm going to think that someone may have this question in their mind, and then I'm going to answer it. So that's my first question. Second question, can you copy a logo that I like very much? All right, so anything of that sort. Let's continue to the next section. So now requirements, you can list the things that you're definitely going to need from the client before starting. It's not a good idea to rely on them, answering you on time, responding to emails. So before they even get your package, you want to make sure that you've taken every information you need for your project. Okay, so these are mandatory. So if you're ordering for a business, what's your industry? There's multiple choice, part of a bigger project you're working on, and then you can add your own questions. So let's go with, what is the name of your business? This will be on your logo. And then you can put it as free text. That's a required thing. You can make this unrequired when you're asking questions that you could do with or without their answer. So let's say, what kind of colors do you want on in your designs. Not required. I can still continue making my designs if they don't tell me this. Okay, continue. And now here is your gig image. This is another important thing because it's essentially the first thing they will see on your gig. So you can add up to 3 images. And then there's videos which actually work better than photos because they get to listen to your voice, they get to see you. You can put in some of the works that you've done and just kind of convince them in 75 seconds. Then we have documents. So if you're maybe a writer, you work in law, that's where you would upload these. So with logos, we would want to use the image part. But we could also take it up a notch and use the video, which on the right you can see that it increases user engagement by 40%. So that is up to you. So you can use any platform to either put in the logos you've done before, maybe the mock-ups. But a lot of people, what they'll do, so here they have the mock-ups. They will put in like the actual logo file. Let me go on this, guys. You can do a collection of your logos, the different ways, or mock-ups. Some people put their own photo just to show their personal identity. And it's really up to you which one you want to do. Now I'm just going to add in some logos and then we can move on to the final step. So the first one is going to be your primary image, which is what's going to show up first. And we can add tags to this to make it easier to identify for your client. So logo type, these are the 2 that we chose. And you can add in some tags about your service. So let's do pastel, picture, stuff like that. It's not really a word mark, but I'm just going to put it on there. So repeat that with the other ones, and then you're good to go. All right, now we can save and continue and fill in some questions. So if you work in the US, you do have to have this guy. So confirm whether or not you're doing that. I'm just going to say no, just to save time here. But if you do work in the United States, definitely choose yes and grab the Form W9 for tax purposes. All right. We have to add in a phone number, and then once we're done, our gig will be reviewed and then published on our profile. So that's how you fill up your gigs. There is no limit as to how many gigs you can have, but for starters, I would say keep it at around 1 to 3. Once those guys do well, you can do variations of that successful gig and build up your business from there. I hope you guys enjoyed this lesson. I'll see you guys in the next one. So now we're going to set up our very first gig on Fiverr. This process is going to require some market research, as we did in the last lesson. So if you want to take more time and find a niche that you want to focus on for the rest of this course, do pause the video and do your research before coming back, because that's just going to make your experience a lot easier and you would be spending time making a gig that's going to have a chance. So as we talked before, if you put something broad like graphic design, the chances of you getting a client is going to be very little. You want to have your own niche, and we chose a brand designer, and we specialize in logos and I believe product. I remember that one. So I'm basically a brand designer and I focus on logo and product design. Now, as you can see, I don't have a button for create your new gig. That's because we haven't completed our profile, and we can do that by clicking on this. It's a little onboarding process. Just gotta fill some stuff up. So let's put so I'm just putting in my name here, display name, profile picture, our description, and the language. Now, regarding profile picture, it's really important for it to be a headshot that is close to the camera. So if you're just some small figure in the background, you're not going to be able to gain the trust of your client immediately. So you want to make sure your face is visible, your eyes are opened, you're not wearing sunglasses or anything. And right through that eye contact, that client can kind of get to know you and trust you better. So try not to add any sketches, family photos, or anything. And then we can continue. I'm just going to upload my photo and then I'll be right back. Once we have our personal info, I'm going to add in an occupation, graphic design, and now this is where we go into the categories. So I'm definitely logo design, and let's take a look, 2 to 5. So let's say we're a graphic designer from 2014. And next we want to choose something else, so packaging and label. That was another one. We can also add other occupations if we want. Say you're also doing programming or marketing, but try to stick to that niche that we talked about. All right, then we have education. You can add it here. As you can see, it's not required. Certification, and then you can add your personal website if you want to have like a portfolio for clients to go and take a look at. Then we have some safety measures. I already have an email, so I don't need to put anything else. And now we're able to actually create our first gig. So we're going to start by telling the clients what we're going to do for them. So as I mentioned before, I will be there, but you get to put something else over here. You have an 80 character max, and you basically want to be straight to the point what you're going to do for them. So if you're designing logos for finance businesses, that's what you want to put in there. You can also put in the style, which I would recommend. So let's go with, I will design a modern finance logo for your, you can't say business, but I'm going to make it even more specific with startup. So this already tells me that tells the client exactly what it is. If anyone is a startup with some sort of relation to finance, they can come for my gig. Next, you're choosing your category. So graphic design, subcategory logos, and we want to choose our style, which we said modern. Logo type, we can go with one of these. You could choose up to 3, but try to minimize your amount. I'm going to go with word mark, AB's emblems. And then what kind of file format are you going to provide for your clients? Some people give the source file. You can also not do that and just give them the SVG and JPEG. Now, the great thing about Fiverr is that no matter what category you choose, it has its own gig metadata. So say I'm going to be in programming and tech, it will not give me the stuff that I was getting for graphic design. If I go into writing and translation, let's choose proofreading and editing, it's going to have its own thing. So with languages, content type, and all sorts of other things. If I choose a subcategory here for website, it's going to have its own stuff for me to choose from. So no matter what you choose, you will have boil it down to exactly what you want to offer. Okay, so we have that. Now we're going to put in our search tags. If you're familiar with SEO, search engine optimization, this could be easier for you, but essentially you want to put up to 5 tags that are basically the things that you're hoping the client will search for in order to find your gig. So in relation to what I'm doing, I'm going to type in startup logo. Let's do finance logo and modern logo. Then just logo and business. So these are the stuff that are very specific. The problem with putting, say, just logo design is that you're going to get mixed up with people who do 3D logos, fashion logos, food industry, and all that. So you want to make sure that you are adding in your niche in all of these tags. We have to declare that, continue, and this is where we introduce our packages. If you recall from our last lesson, we saw that on all of the gigs, people had 3 sets of prices. There's a basic, the cheapest one, and it goes all the way up to premium, where you offer the most expensive and the most that you can offer. So this is why you have to do a market research to see what the standard pricing is and what they offer for that price. So I'm just going to the Fiverr buyer section and find one gig that I want to kind of mimic in terms of pricing. So let's search startup logo. There we go. So these guys work with logos that are suitable for the startup industry. Let me see, which one do I want to get? I'll go with this one just because they're top rated. And from here, I want to see what they offer. Obviously, as people who just started, you cannot go ahead and put in £73 for your basic package and around £244 for premium. But what we're going to look at is what this person offers for this price, and we will have to start with a cheaper price when we're starting out and then gradually add that up. Okay, so let's go down here where it compares. And this is what we want to mimic. So it's going to give us two logo concepts: high quality JPEG, transparent PNG, and a vector source. There's no 3D mockup, no stationery, no social media. And these are the other specifications. Now I will go for a budget, to the budget section, and choose one for value. These are usually the people who either started early or they're counting on a high number of orders. So let's go with this person. They start from, actually this guy, 9 is pretty good. This person has only had 15 clients, and this is their pricing. Starts from 8, goes up to around £49. So let's go back to our package. First, we want to give it a name. I will go with like the starter package. Standard, let's go with, and then go with package. Now we're going to describe the details. So I think I'll do 2 logo concepts, JPEG, files, and say I'll add PNG in there as well. Delivery time, how long is it going to take for you to deliver this package? I'll go with 2 days because I'm not giving much. And by the way, in here you can add more description about the type of logo you're going to provide. So feel free to add more in here. Revisions relate to how many times are you going to implement the feedback your client will give you. So say I gave a logo of a star, and that's my finalized logo, and then the client's like, can you add a moon next to it? If I accept that, I am doing a revision. And when I give them that star and moon logo, that is a singular revision that I have allowed the client to do. If you put it at 0, they cannot change it. They have to take what you've made for them based on their initial request. Because a lot of times clients, they ask you to do something. Once you give it to them, they may think of other stuff they want to add to it. Maybe they changed their mind completely. And in order to protect yourself, you want to choose revisions wisely. So for a basic package that we're going to put up for £9, there's no need to put 9 or unlimited revisions because you're not getting that much. It's a rather quick delivery and you're just kind of making it harder for yourself. So if we go back to one of these guys, let's come down here. We can see that this person has unlimited for all 3, but they're not giving a vector file or the source file, any of that. So we can assume that this is a quick, high quality logo. Whereas for this guy, we can see that because he's going to take his time with it due to the fact that he's a pro, he has only 3 revisions for a 2-day delivery, 5 revisions for another 2-day delivery, and then unlimited because you're paying a lot more. So think about that and choose what you want to do with it. I usually go with 0 for something this basic, just because I want to give an option to the people that just want a rather quick logo and be on their way. I will definitely put unlimited because they will be paying more here. And for the second one, say 3. Next, we have number of concepts. So I kind of listed it here, but we can add it over here as well, just so there's that, just so they can compare the tables as well. So if they give me an idea or a request of a star logo, I would be giving them X amount of variations of that concept. So I have 2, 2, and 3. You could go up to 5. Obviously, if you're going to give them more for each of these concepts, choosing 5 is going to be a lot of work for you. But you could argue that it's quality over quantity, and like each of those concepts use like psychology, color theory, and all of that, and kind of make them be okay with this. If they wanted more, I think they can ask for an additional logo. You can charge them. So just think about how your workflow is and if these numbers are possible. All right, the second one, I'll write in 2 logo concepts. The difference we can say is that you get a JPEG, a PNG, and this time you get an SVG, and you get mockups too. Let's say 3 mockups. For the premium, which is the best that you can give them, let's go with 3 logo concepts using psychology. We can say that we're going to give them 5 mockups, and then of course the formats are going to be JPEG, PNG, SVG, and then we can say the source file. And just to make it even more, let's add a PDF in there if they want to print it. Okay. Next, we have logo transparency, and that just talks about whether you can isolate your logo without a background. Usually that's what PNG files are for, so I'm just going to add them for all 3. Vector file is the .ai that we chose, so it's going to be available for this one. Printable file, that's PDF. 3D mockup, put that here. Then we have source file. Stationery designs is like you can make them stuff that relates to documentation. So you can make them headers for documents. You can make like a footer or like business cards and all of that. That's if you want to offer it. It's going to be obviously a bit more work, but that just depends on whether you want to offer these. Social media kit is kits designed based off the brand that you made for them. So if it's, say, Instagram, all of the posts that you design for them needs to have the same color palette, the same font, and all of that. You don't want to give them some random social media designs because they could have just made it themselves on Canva or something. So if you do want to offer that, you can put that in there. Finally, we are here for price. So I want you guys to analyze what exactly you're offering, bearing in mind the market research that you've done, and put in a price for yourself. So that person kept in £8 for unlimited revisions and a rather fast delivery. I would obviously have to lower my amount because I'm not giving them unlimited revisions. I'm delivering that in 2 days. Forgot to add these. So 3-day delivery, 3-day delivery. So I'll go with $5. And then this one, we can go with 15. And then this one, we can do 25. You can always come back and change the prices. So this is not set in stone. Now there's this thing called extra services. This is where you can allow your clients to take more than what you've initially offered. So if they want it to be super fast, we can put 1 day for the first one and then 2 days for the others. And we can charge them like $10 more. Let's give this like $3. Additional revisions. Do you have the time to do all of these revisions? If not, you can just uncheck the box. Do you want to offer more logos within this package? If yes, put a price. If no, turn it off. The vector files, if they want the vector files for, say, the basic package, how much would you want to charge them for that? So I'm just going to do like $5 for another day. 3D mockups, let's do $10 for another day. And you can just go ahead and add even your own customized gig extra. Okay, let's continue. Now comes one of the biggest parts of your gig, and that's how you describe what you're going to do for your clients. We're going to continue this in the next lesson because it's going to be very long and elaborative. So for now, just make sure that you have all your prices set, all your conditions set in the pricing section, and then come back here where we can add a nice description and milestones. I will see you guys in the next part.